Okay, let's continue. So, in accepting the order, meaning the total contribution margin is 24,600, but the company needs special equipment, which should which is 14,300. So the net benefit, if you are going to accept the order, is 10,300. There's an increase in operating income. In number 3 question, what if the company was operating at capacity and accepting the special order would require rejecting an equivalent number of boxes sold to existing customers? So in other words, in the case of number 3, the company has no idle capacity. In other words, if it will be selling to this special order customer, it will be turning down the other regular orders. So the regular sales, which is at $6, 180,000, we deduct commission because in this special order, no commission. So we have 171,000 uh, operating income from regular sales. If you have this special order, it will only be at 310, but still you have to buy special equipment for logo. So you have a net income of only 78,700. So meaning it's favorable to sell continuously at regular sales. Next, we go to problem number 4. This is the last example under your relevant costing. Sell a split off or process further so that the company is decomposed into two chemicals, anderine and dophenol. The cost of processing one batch of compound is 74,000 and the result is 6,000 gallons of anderine and 8,000 gallons of dophenol. Betram Chemicals can sell the anderine at split of 411 per gallon. So that's the 6,000 gallons at 11 and the dophenol at 675 per gallon. Alternatively, the anderine can be processed further at the cost of 8 per gallon into sermine. So that's the third product. It takes 3 gallons of anderine for every gallon of sermine. So meaning the 6,000 gallons of anderine, that will be 3 to 1. A gallon of sermine sells 60. List the alternatives being considered. In the two alternatives are to sell the anderine as split off or to process it further into sermine. If the anderine is sold as split off, the relevant benefit is the amount of sales revenue. If the anderine is processed further, the relevant benefit is the sales revenue from the resultant sermine. The relevant costs include the further processing cost. The joint cost of producing the anderine and dophenol is sunk and need not be considered. So now we have to decide whether we are going to sell the anderine at split off or we have to process it further to sermine. If the underin will be sold at split off, in Sigida you'll earn revenue at we have 11 per gallon. So that will involve 66,000. If you are going to process further, you can sell the sermine at 60 and you have 6,000 gallons of anderin divided by 3, meaning you can produce 2,000 gallons of sermine and then you are going to sell it at 60. That's why you have the sales revenue. If you process further, you will produce sermine and you will sell this sermine at 120,000. In other words, there's a differential of 54,000. There will be no more further processing cost for Andirin because you are selling it outright. But for Sermin, you will involve cost to process further at a cost of 8 per gallon. So 8 times 6,000, 48,000. 54,000, the differential revenue minus the differential cost of 48,000, then there will be a differential income equal to 6,000. So there is 6,000 per batch advantage to processing the Andirin to Sermin. Now lastly, number 4, what if the production of Andirin into Sermin required additional purchasing and quality inspection activities? Every 500 gallons of Andirin that undergo further processing require 20 more purchase orders at 10 each and 15 more quality inspection hours at 25 each. Which alternative would be better and by how much? So in the case of requirement number 4, we have the what if production of Andirin into Sermin. So we have now to sell a split off. Again, we still have 66 and 120. So there is a revenue difference of 54,000. We will involve additional purchasing for conversion of the Andirin to Sermin. So we have added purchasing now computed with 6,000 gallons divided by 500 per batch, and you multiply it by 20, we get 20 purchase orders times 10 is 2,400, and the other added inspection of 4,500, and of course we have the further processing cost. So if you sell a split off, you'll earn 66,000, but if you are going to process further, that will involve an amount of 65,100. Okay, so here we have the 900 per batch advantage to selling the Andirin as split off instead of processing it into Sermin. While in the case of number 3, now we have the alternative in number 3, selling it as split off and process further. By the way, take note, your number 3, if you sell a split off, you'll have revenue of 66,000 only. But if you process further, you'll earn 72,000. So it's advantageous to process further because your revenue is 72,000 higher than if you are going to sell at split off point. Next, we go to exercise 17-5. Actually, it's 3-5 here. Determining relevant cost. 6 months ago, Liana Carver purchased a fire engine red used Lebaron convertible for 10,000. Liana was looking forward to the feel of the sun on her shoulders and the wind whipping through her hair as she zipped along the highways of life. Unfortunately, the wind turned her hair into straw and she didn't do much zipping along since the car spent so much of its time in the shop. So far, she has spent 1,200 on repairs and she's afraid there is no end in sight. In fact, Liana anticipates the following cost of restoration: rebuilt engine, new paint job, tires, new interior and miscellaneous maintenance, the total of 3,110. So we have now the requirement in trying to decide whether to restore the Le Baron or buy the CRB. Liana is distressed because she has already spent 11,200 on the Le Baron. Okay, the investment seems too much to give up. How would you react to her concern? List all costs that are relevant to Liana's decision. What advice would you give her? In number 5. The money already spent on the Lebaron is not relevant. The purchase price and the repair costs are sunk costs. They are the same whether Liana restores the Lebaron or buys the CRV. List all costs that are relevant to Liana's decision. All future costs that differ across alternatives are relevant. The alternatives facing Liana are restoration and buying the CRV. Thus, all cost of restoration, the sales price of the Le Baron and the purchase price of the CRV are relevant. The cost of restoration is 3,110. The net purchase cost of the CRV is 9,100 minus 3,600. In all other things are equal, Liana should choose the restoration alternative. Alternatively, however, all things are seldom equal. If the unreliability of the Lebaron, the hassle of having it in the shop, and the lower desirability of the convertible top are sufficiently important to Liana, it might be worth it to her to spend the extra money to get the CRB. Okay, so let's now continue with 3.6. 3.6. Okay, so we have now in 6, resource, supply and usage, special order relevancy. Elliot has 4 salaried clerks to process purchase orders. Each clerk is paid a salary of 25,750 and is capable of processing as many as 6,000 purchase orders per year. Each clerk uses a PC and laser printer in processing orders. Time available in each PC system is sufficient to process 6,500 orders per year. The cost of each PC system is 1,100 per year. In addition to the salaries, Eliot spends 27,560 for forms, postage, and other supplies. Okay, so number 1, classify the resources associated with purchasing as flexible or committed. So in number 1, the flexible resources are forms, postage, and other supplies. The committed are clerks and the PC system. Compute the total activity, availability, and break this into activity usage and unused activity. So the activity availability, activity usage plus unused activity. So we have 25,350. That's the activity usage plus the unused of 650. So the activity availability is 26,000. That's 25,350 times we have here plus 650 for the activity availability. Then 4, calculate the total cost of resources supplied or activity cost and break this into the cost of activity used and the cost of unused activity. So in number 3, the activity cost. The cost of activity used plus the cost of unused activity. So we have 134,271 is the sum of 131, 586 plus 2685. So we now have the determination of the cost of activity used for 4 multiplied by 25,750. So we now get the result for the unpaid. Okay, so we have now 4 multiplied by 25,750 plus 1,100. Then we add 27,560 divided by 26,000 times 25,350. Now take note, we have to follow our guidelines. Now 25,350. So we have now 4 multiplied by 25,750 plus 1,100 times 650 divided by 26,000. At the top, we have 27,560 divided by 26,000. In the second line, we have 650 divided by 26,000. That's your number of orders. Okay, so we have now your number 4. Suppose that a large special order will cost an additional 500 purchase orders. What purchasing costs are relevant? By how much will purchasing cost increase or decrease? So by suppose that special order causes 700 additional purchase orders, how will your answer change? Since demand changes for the flexible resources, the cost of supplies increased by 530. Okay, by 1.06 times 500. For the committed resources, there is sufficient excess capacity. 650 orders is 26,000 minus 25,350 to handle special order. 27,560 divided by 26,000 a purchase order, so you get 1.06. Okay, so we have now number 6. Then we move to next problem. 3-10. 3-10, or in your case 17-10. Make or buy, traditional and ABC analysis. The company manufacturer of golf carts has just received an offer from a supplier to provide 2,600 units of a component used in its main product. The components are truck assembly that is currently produced internally. Suppliers offered to sell the truck assembly for 66 dollars per unit. Breeze is considering using a traditional unit-based costing system that aligns overhead to jobs on the basis of direct labor hours. Prior to making a decision, the company's CEO commissioned a special study to see whether there would be any decrease in the fixed overhead cost. The result of the study revealed the following: three setups, $1,160 each. Setups would be avoided and total spending could be reduced by 1,160 per setup. One-time inspector is needed. The company already uses part-time inspector hired through a temporary employment agency. The yearly cost of the part-time inspectors for the truck assembly operations is 1230 and could be totally avoided if the part were purchased. Engineering work 470 hours of $45 per hour, although work decreases by 470 hours. Okay. The engineer assigned to the truck assembly line also spends time on other products, and there would be no reduction in his salary. 75 fewer material moves at 30. Okay, so we now have the solution to problem number 10. Again, this is still a make or buy. However, we are using the traditional system and the ABC analysis. So, for exercise 17-10, we have so far numerous requirements. So let's begin with requirement number 1. For ignore the special study, determine whether the truck assembly should be purchased internally or purchased from the supplier. So if you are to make direct materials given for the amount of 104,000, direct labor, variable factory overhead, purchase cost is 171,600. That's if you are going to buy the parts with 2,600 units multiplied by 66. So you get 171,600 buying the parts. But if you are going to manufacture the parts with 2,600, then you will incur direct materials for 2,600 times 40 times 1650 times 450 for direct materials, direct labor, and variable overhead respectively. So we have now the solution to our alternatives. For purchase cost, you have 171,600. The offer would be rejected and the company would continue to produce internally. Then, for question number 2, now using the special study data, repeat the analysis for direct materials, direct labor, variable overhead. Then we have the setups given. So we have now these setups at the rate, no, for setups. Now it's 5,030. And by the way, setups 3 for 80, inspections 12,300, materials handling 2 to 50. Setups at 3 setups 1,160 each. So if you now involve here in number 3, the number of setups to be included 1160 times 3. Inspections for 12,300 given, and materials handling at 2,000 250 for the materials handling. So we have the materials handling. We are assigning the amount of 2,250. Now that's for the handling cost. And for the total of relevant cost, if you're going to buy only, then you'll be paying 171,600. Okay, so we are now given the data as additional data here for our setup, and for our inspections, given the amount of 12,300 at we have 12,300 taken. So we have how many times, or how many setups, or how many engineering hours. So we now multiply by 20,250. However, our inspections involve only cost of 12,300. That's given. Engineering works for 70 at 45 per hour. Although the work decreases by 470 hours, the engineer assigned to the truck assembly line also spends time on other products, and there will be no reduction in his salary. And finally, we multiply for the materials handling, we multiply 75 times 30. Now, for the materials handling, based on the number of moves. So now it's 5,030 difference, less expensive to buy outside. Number 3, discuss the qualitative factors that would affect the decision, including strategic implications. In making the decision, Bree should consider such qualitative factors as the quality of the part, the reliability of the supplier, the effect of labor reductions on employee morale, the possibility of price increases in the future, and the effect on the overall strategic position of the firm. The strategic implications are particularly important. Does Breeze really want to reduce the level of backward integration? If Breeze is pursuing a cost leadership strategy, is purchasing the part the best way of reducing cost? Or should it first examine ways of reducing costs internally before making a purchase decision? It may be possible to reduce waste and inefficiency to the point where internal production is much better from a cost reduction point of view than external purchase. After reviewing the special study, the controller made the following remark: this study ignores the additional activity demands that purchasing would cause. For example, although the demand for inspecting the part on the production floor decreases, we may need to inspect the incoming parts in the receiving area. Will we actually save any inspection cost? Is the controller right? Okay, so this time you have to determine if the controller is right or not. So here the question is the controller right? Okay, the controller does have a point. Purchasing the part will affect a number of outside activities, such as purchasing, receiving, and paying bills. If these activities do not have unused capacity that can absorb the increased demands associated with the new part, then resource spending could increase and they should be factored into the analysis. Now we go to the next problem, 3-17, resource usage model, special order, 3-11. 3-11. Erling Incorporated manufactures metal racks for hanging clothing in retail stores. Erling was approached by CEO of Carly's Corner, a regional non-profit food bank, with an offer to buy 350 heavy-duty metal racks for storing canned goods and dry food products. While racks normally sell for 245 each, Carly's Corner offered 75 per rack. The CEO explained that the number of families they serve had grown significantly over the past 2 years and that the charity needed additional storage for the donated food items. Since Erling is operating at 80% of capacity and Erling employees have adopted Carly's Corner as their annual charity, the company wants to make the special order work. Erling's controller looked into the cost of the storage racks using the following information from the activity-based accounting system. So you have the activity rates, direct materials, direct labor, setups, inspection, and machining. Now we have the activity drivers or bases. Di nang kakanta man or basis. Then we have the unused capacity, the quantity demanded. Then we have the activity rates, the fixed and the variable. For direct materials, direct labor, setups, inspection, and machining. This represents only the amount of resources demanded by the special order being considered, the quantity demanded. This is expected activity cost divided by activity capacity, now the activity rates. Expansion of activity capacity for setups, inspection, and machining must be done in steps. For setups, each step provides an additional 20 hours of setup activity and cost 3,000. For inspection, activity capacity is expanded by 2,000 hours per year and the cost is $20,000 per year. The salary for an additional inspector. Machine capacity can be leased for a year at the rate of $40 per machine hour. Machine capacity must be acquired, however, in steps of 1,500 machine hours. Compute for the change in income for Erling Incorporated if the order is accepted. So if the order is accepted, then we have this following computations. For the revenues, that's 75. That's the selling price to Carly's Corner. So times 350 heavy duty metal racks. Then we deduct direct materials, direct labor at 82 and at 15 for direct materials and direct labor. And we have now the setups at 1. Oh, quantity demanded. So we have now 1 times the rate of 5. So we have only one setup. The variable rate is 5. And inspection with a rate of 5. And the number of inspection, we have 20. So we now get the machining at 3 times 175. So the loss from accepting the order is 10,955 because Carlis will only pay 26,250. But the cost of manufacturing the part is much bigger. The initial analysis favors rejecting the order because income decreases by 10,955. Does the order require any change in capacity for setups, packing, or machining? So the special order is so small that there is sufficient excess capacity for setups, packing, and machining to handle it without adding capacity. Only the variable costs of these three activities are relevant. 3. Suppose that the packing activity can be eliminated for this order since the customer is in town and does not need to have the racks boxed and shipped. Because of this, direct materials can be reduced by $13 per unit and direct labor by 0.5 hour per unit. How is this analysis? How is the analysis affected? So we have now for the new direct materials per unit, it's 82 minus 13. So it's only 69. The old direct labor hours per unit is 525 hours. And then we divide this by 525 divided by 350 units. So it means 1.5 hours. However, this time is reduced by zero point 0.5. So it will only be 1 hour per unit. So the revenue is still the same. Direct materials is now reduced. Direct labor is reduced. Then you have the setups, no more inspection, you still have machining. You have the loss from accepting the order is still 3680. Okay, so we now go to requirement number 4. Erling can find other cost-saving measures for this order. Why might the company decide to accept it even if it shows a loss? The company may still accept the order. This is a charitable organization. The company may have funds dedicated to making contributions. Alternatively, perhaps the marketing department could work with Carly's Corner to be listed as a donor. The loss can then be charged to marketing